Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar has written numerous research papers in the various area of the production and management, supply chain management, and this paper is also in the series of the research paper written by the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar that's published in the International Journal of Integrated Supply Management, Volume 10, Number 1, 2016. The title of the research paper is The Effects of Green Policy on the Performance of Green Supply Chain. And the co-author is the Professor Jyoti Raman and Professor Priya of the International Engineering Services, house number 87A, RZI Block, West Sagarpur, New Delhi 46, India. This paper focuses on the performance of green supply chain and adding the green concept to it as to emphasize the importance of environmental issues and the need of eco-friendly systems. Environmental issues are major concern of the today's research, and this paper is focused on these environmental issues of the green supply chain and eco-friendly system. The purpose of this study is to propose a model for evaluating the effects of the green policy on the performance of the green supply chain. Evaluating the effects of the green policy on the performance of the green supply chain. Performance of the green supply chain is also an important area of the research. We show that supply chain collaboration is benefit enhancing when the levels of green damage caused by the pollution are low. However, when the level of damage is high, it turns out that suppliers anticipate tougher green policy when they share information than when they do not and so don't share information. This distorts the R&D decisions in ways that make the non-cooperative equilibrium benefit enhancing. The keywords are green supply chain, green policy, innovative process, supply chain collaboration, R&D policy, and performance measure. And the reference to this paper should be made as follow: Kumar M, Raman J, and Priya, the effects of the green policy on the performance of the green supply chain. International Journal, Integrated Supply Management, Volume 10, Number 1, page number 1 to 37. Biographical notes: Manoj Kumar received his PhD in Mechanical Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, India. He is currently working as a Director, International Engineering Services, New Delhi. He has authored or co-authored over 50 research papers in the journals and conferences. Jyoti Raman is currently working as a research analyst in the International Engineering Services, New Delhi, India. She has co-authored or co-authored over 5 research papers in journals and conferences. Priya is presently working as a research analyst, International Engineering Services, New Delhi, India. She has authored or co-authored over 5 research papers in journals and conferences. This paper is published by the Inder Science Enterprises Limited. The next paper, written by the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar, is in the Journal of International Journal of Audit Vocational Education and Technology. That's published in the Volume 7, Issue 1, January-March 2016. The title of the research paper is The Vocational Education and Training in India. And failure in the training market may result from credit constraint and the inability to insure against labor income uncertainty, deterring potential trainees or labor market imperfection that create external benefits for Indian industry. This paper constructs a model of a training market affected by both problems and examines the rationale for training levy schemes intended to make Indian industries increase investment in training. It is sound that regulating Indian industry or equivalently financing a subsidy through taxation of profits can achieve a Pareto improvement irrespective of the cause of underinvestment. However, when the levy is assessed as a proportion of wages, the effect is to address capital market imperfection only. Keywords are competitive labor market, Pareto improvement, training levy scheme, vocational training. Policymakers in several countries have attempted to increase investment in the vocational training by requiring industries to bear training cost. In India, a policy of this type operated between 1990 and 2010. For each of the 28 industries, an industrial training board was given statutory power to raise a training levy from industry, then to redistribute the levy in the form of grants to those industries which were deemed to be given a private level of training to their employees. In 2001, India instituted a policy which requires employers to spend a certain percentage of payroll cost on training. The required percentage has gradually been raised since then, standing now at 1.2%, and the system continues to operate with little political controversy. Non cognitive skills like ability to work in the teams, good communication skills, problem solving ability, readiness to accept challenges, and flexibility are not developed in the current system of general education of India. The supposed economic rationale for such intervention is that training creates external benefits for other industry. An industry will be deterred from investing sufficiently in training because trained workers might leave the industry would then be unable to capture the benefits. A mechanism is needed to ensure that industries cannot free ride by poaching skilled labor from other industries. But this argument has found little favor with economists in recent years, and few have defended the use of levy schemes. Perfectly competitive markets ensure optimal investment in training as follows. Provided that the skills are general, they can be traded in a competitive labor market. A generally trained worker is paid his marginal product and thus receives the full return from the training investment. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is written for the research subsidies and the innovation improve productivity. This paper is published in the International Journal of Productive Management and Assessment Technology, Volume 4, Issue 2, July-December 2016. Most productivity theories agree that understanding the economies of innovation and technological changes is central to understanding why some suppliers grow faster than other suppliers. The driving force behind recent development in innovation model of productivity is a desire to incorporate quality. Incorporating quality of the produced products without the addition of the restrictive rigorous age condition improves that policy impacts the productivity. This paper makes productivity modeling along the lines of the Boris and Baker and models an arrow of the governmental policies to demonstrate how some policies and abundant productivity in a productivity model without the addition of restrictive measures constants. In the author's model, government policies are categorized according to whether they live presently profits and productivity or no impact on profits on or productivity. The model also perhaps that a research subsidy promotes long-run productivity. The keywords are indigenous innovation, policy effect on productivity, research subsidy. Why do productivity rates differ substantially across suppliers for long periods of the time? This basic question has been at the heart of productivity theory since the first production of productivity models incorporated equality and a focus on policy to explain differential productivity patterns. In effect, These first production models predict that larger suppliers grow faster than smaller suppliers, and government policy can impact the productivity. These models allow for a wide array of explanations for diverse patterns of productivity and profits. Research subsidies and innovation policy can be designed to enhance innovative activity and correct market productivity associated with such activity. In particular, innovative activities can depend on the sector and supplier productivity. It is possible that suppliers with good ideas must conduct research and development. It is also possible that R&D spillovers, knowledge that follows to rivals and other suppliers without payment, make innovation privately profitable. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published on the environment related issues, which are the important issue in the current area of the research. And the title of the research paper is Environmental Sustainability in the Fashion Supply Chain in India. This paper is published in International Journal of Social Ecology and Sustainable Development, Volume 7, Issue 3, July-September 2016. The fashion supply chain is one of the most polluting industry in the world, being a huge consumer of the water, electricity, and chemicals, and discharging massive quantities of waste to land. Stakeholders and customers' pressure on sustainability has pushed companies to transfer general environmental sustainability concepts into business practices. However, a few contributions have offered a comprehensive analysis of the practices employed in the fashion supply chain to reduce its environmental impact. Each fashion supplier seeks to maximize its profit as well as to minimize its enormous through its supply chain, with the latter criterion being weighted in an individual manner by each supplier. In this paper, a theoretical framework for mapping practices for environmental sustainability implemented in the fashion system is presented. The framework is then used to analyze the Indian scenario. The fashion and apparel industry faces vast challenges as well as opportunity in the reduction of environmental impact globally. The demand for apparel that is produced and distributed in a manner that minimizes the use of the toxic dyes, raw materials such as cotton grown with pesticide as well as generation of waste in terms of textile and byproducts including packaging is coming not only from consumers but more recently even from suppliers such as Levi's, Gap, H&M, Walmart that wish to enhance or to maintain a positive brand identity. In addition, organizations such as the Natural Resource Defense Council are now increasingly emphasizing that these industries' dimension of the environmental impacts will require that brands and retailers re-examine their fashion supply chain way back to the inputs into their production process and take more responsibility for the fiber reply. In order to fix ideas and to emphasize the scope of the environmental issues associated with the fashion and apparel industry, this is known as the TCL sector. We now provide some data according to Claudio. Polyester is a man-made fiber whose demand from the fashion industry has doubled in the past 15 years. And man-made fiber, polyester is a man-made fiber whose demand for the fashion industry has developed in the past 15 years. In manufacturing, its manufacture requires petroleum and releases such emulsions as a volatile organic compounds and gases such as a hydrogen chloride, as well as particulates. Other byproducts associated with its production are emitted in the vast water. However, even natural. This paper is published in the IGI Global Publisher, United States of the America. Next research paper of the Professor Manoj Kumar was published on the eco-labeling of the suppliers. This is also related with the environmental issues. eco-labeling of the suppliers using green production techniques with asymmetric information. Supplier would like to emphasize the buyer's willingness to pay a premium for goods that use environmentally friendly green production techniques, but they face a problem of the asymmetric information cannot determine if a supplier is environmental friendly. Since the green more costly than environmental friendly brown techniques, suppliers would line as a choose a green technique yielding larger population flow. One possible remedy is the eco-labeling, where a third party certifies suppliers' products. This paper models certification with green suppliers more likely to pass than brown suppliers. Two models are considered. One where suppliers' production technique are exogenous, a short running setting, and one where they are can choose their technique a long run setting. Results show that the eco-labeling can either rise or lower the volume of the green units and rise or lower net social surplus, increases in social surplus, and more likely in the long run. Environmental economics, this paper is related with the environmental economics. In the last decade or so, eco labels have emerged in the wide range of the country. Some of these certification programs have become quite popular, as with the German Blue Angel, Japanese Eco Mark, Swedish Environmental Choice, and Nordic Swan. These eco labels is often applied to the products where buyers would generally be individually unable to determine the environmental friendliness of the product. For example, the biodegradability of a paper product or the production process itself. Many of the eco-labeling programs currently in the operation consider production-related criteria in their assessment of suppliers that seek certification. Next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in International Journal of Advanced Engineering Research and Science. And this is the recognition of the paper in title. Certificate of publication is here by awarding the certificate to the Manoj Kumar in recognition of this publication to the paper entitled Pricing Models for Perishable Good with Customer Perception, published in the International Journal of Advances in Research and Science, Volume 3, Issue 8, page number 68 to 71, August 2016. The next research paper published by the Manoj Kumar is in the International Journal of Advanced Engineering Research and Sciences, IJERS, Volume 3, Issue 8, August 2016, ISSN 2349 6495 2456 1908. The title of the research paper is Pricing Models for Perishable Goods with the Customer Perception, and the co-author is the Nosarwan Ronke, and he is the PhD student of the Department of Management Studies, Sri Satya Sai University of Technology, Medical Sciences, Sehor, MP, India. In this paper, the pricing problem of perishable goods with customer perception is studied. Firstly, the customer value theory is introduced. Secondly, the problem is described. Then the pricing model of perishable goods is established in consideration of customer perception. At last, some data analysis and discussions are made via a concrete case study. The optimal pricing policy and maximum expected profit of retailers are gained, and some useful management conclusions are drawn. Keywords are the perishable goods, revenue management, customer perception, reservation price. Perishable goods, also known as seasonal products, have some distinct features such as short sale cycles, low value of the unsold goods, and uncertain demands. There are many examples of the perishable goods. For instance, plain sheets, hotel rooms, cinema tickets, newspapers, magazines, video and disc, food, medicines, fashionable clothes, etc. Due to the technological environment, feature market, competition, the product life cycle have been greatly shortened and the innovation accelerated more and more products. Electronic product personal computer and information product now have the same feature as the perishable goods. In recent market, there are many perishable goods and industry with perishable features, so it is one of the crucial decision for the enterprise to price the products and services. The sale time is limited for perishable goods. Products or services will be worthless out of the shelving time for a certain time limit. In terms of the opportunity to gain profits through selling, the products will disappear forever. The demand for the perishable goods fluctuates, facing the choice of the various customers. Some customers are willing and also have the ability to buy the product at a high price immediately after its appearance in the market. But some customers prefer lower price at the cost of flexibility. So the decision makers face the situation to balance the two sides, the customer drain because of the high price and the loss of the consumer surplus. The difference between the actual price of the product and the reservation price of the customer due to the lower price. The traditional pricing policy, such as the cost traded policy, competition oriented policy, cannot suit the case of the perishable good quite well. Therefore, we need a new pricing strategy. Revenue management, which is the most updated scientific management method in the world, is to achieve the best optimization of the existing resources of the enterprise through scientific projection of the market demand and pricing without adding cost. In turn, to gain the maximum profit, the core of the method is to sell the appropriate products to the appropriate customer at an appropriate price in an appropriate time so as to gain the maximum economic profit. Actual pricing for perishable goods is a problem of the revenue management. In consideration of the customer perception, this paper has made analysis and research on the pricing problem of the perishable good with the help of the profit management theory. First, it introduces the customer value theory. Then it gives a description of the problem being researched. Then it establishes a pricing model of the perishable goods in consideration of the customer perception. At last, it makes some data analysis and discussion through a concrete case study, from which we draw the optimal pricing and largest expected profit of the retailers and some other meaningful conclusions. Take a comprehensive view of a study on pricing for the perishable goods at home and abroad. We find that the almost researchers think that customers are homogeneous. Some papers have mentioned the concerning concept, but these papers cannot be seen so much. At abroad, the research on the revenue management about customer choices behavior largely focused on optimizing the model and improving the algorithm. On the assumption that demand from the initial order to meet arbitrary arrival, we can find some similar research of the Velubaba and Weatherford. Weatherford, the most representative in the Telluri and Van regions, they have put forward a model of discrete time option. Through a literature search, we cannot find a research on pricing models for perishable good with the customer perception. The list of the research paper published by the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar has shown here. Here is the co-author Jyoti Raman and the Priya. Journal is the Indian Journal of Technical Education 2015, volume 38, number 4, 57 to 69. Designing a quality assurance system of the higher education in India. Next paper is in the International Journal of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, R&D spillovers and the increasing of suppliers research activity. Next paper is the International Journal of the Asian Business and Information Management, the implications of the India's special characteristics for FDI spillovers. International Journal of the Food and Beverage Manufacturing and the Business Models, published in the 2016, volume 1, number 2, page 49 to 62. Decision of suppliers and consumers of the credence good in quality food markets. Next paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Risk and Contingency Management, year 2016, volume 5, number 4, and page 27 to 41. Scenario and robust optimization in the risk management. Next paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Applied Logistics, year 2016, volume 6, number 2, page 51 to 80. The effects of the product labeling policy in supply chain under asymmetric information. The next paper is published in the International Journal of Applied Logistics, volume 6, number 2, page 1 to 33. And the paper title is Sub-Suppliers Decision Affect Supply Chain Performance. Next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Energy Optimization and Engineering. The paper title is The Economic Evaluation of Solar Cooling Schemes. Next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in International Journal of Productivity Management and Assessment Technology. The title of the paper is Stochastic Frontier Analysis and Measurement of Productivity and Technical Efficiency of Indian Manufacturing Sector. Next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Asian Business and Information Management. The title of the paper is A Panel Data Analysis for Exploring the New Determinants of Growth in Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises in India. The next research paper is published in the International Journal of Asian Business and Information Management. The paper title is The Profitability of the Indian Firms in the Foreign Direct Investment. The next research paper of the Professor Director Manoj Kumar is published is the Designing a Quality Assurance System of Higher Education in India. This paper is published in the Indian Journal of Technical Education, volume number 38, number 4, in the October-December 2015. The challenges of an India has reached to an effect of education. The roots of Indian societies, India has entered the process of aligning not only their economies, their legal and institutional system, but also creating an open Indian higher education area. This compromises a framework that is expected to enable closer cooperation between higher education institutions and to facilitate student and staff mobility. An increase in both the competitiveness of Indians in the international labor market and the attractiveness of Indian higher education in the world is anticipated. An important objective of the UGC guidelines is to move higher education in India towards a more transparent and mutually recognized system, and furthermore to place the diversified national system into a common frame. One of the objectives of the UGC guidelines is the establishment of the quality assurance, including evaluation of programs or institutions in the form of internal assessment together with external reviews, with the participation of students and the publication of relevant results. Within this frame, International Engineering Services New Delhi decided to establish a pilot internal assessment in order to measure the current scenario and to understand critical factors needed for designing an internal quality assurance system aiming to the continuous improvement of the quality of education. The purpose is not only to meet the Indian challenge, but also to improve the competitiveness of the department. The design stage has come to an end, and the next stage is to inform management, members of the staff, students of maximal commitment in preparing the implementation stage. This paper reports on experiences gained and on the results of the design stage. Success factors as well as difficulty are highlighted for increased stakeholders' awareness of efforts needed to make a significant change in educational policy and deep-rooted cultural practices in India. Now the time has come to create a second wave of institution building and of excellence in the fields of the education, research, and capability building. We need higher educated people who are skilled and who can drive our economy forward. When India can provide skilled people to the outside world, then we can transfer our country from a developing nation to a developed nation very easily and quickly. The keywords are higher education, assessment, quality assurance, key performance indicators. India's higher education system is the world's third largest in terms of the students, next to the China and the United States. Unlike the China, however, India has the advantage of English being the primary language of higher education and research. India. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in International Journal of E-Entrepreneurship and Innovation, volume 5, number 2, page number 39 to 66, July December 2015, page number 39. The title of the paper is R&D spillovers and the increasing of a supplier's research activity. This paper is published in the IGI Global Publishers. The conceptual framework is proposed for analyzing how differences in suppliers' R&D reserve can impact on the supplier's decision to increase its R&D activity. A central finding is that the integration of the product markets can generate an added incentive to undertake R&D activities to buyer's location. A three-stage analysis of a non-cooperative game is proposed, which entitles cost-reducing process innovation in a supply chain model of deploy. A supplier's technological efficiency depends not only on its investment in applied R&D, but also on its observation of supplier and buyer fundamental R&D, as well as the extent to which the latter are substitute or complements. In a first stage, a supplier's observation of buyer's fundamental R&D can be impacted by a decision to focus R&D activities to buyer's location. The interrelation between this decision and initial production cost is also explored. Keywords are the buyer's location, economic integration, fundamental R&D, R&D spillover. It has long been recognized that research and development at the level supplies can play a critical role in explaining their economical performance as reflected, for example, by supply chain alliances and investment shares as well as indigenous economic growth. Increasing attention has also been given to the potential of R&D spillovers impacting on diverse dimensions of suppliers' economic performance. Brandslater and the Moran have offered recent survey of the letter literature, have considered the more general role of R&D externality, yet the extent to which the localization of the R&D activity has become globalized remains a subject of the relatively less attention for which there has been little former modeling. Indeed, the relative lack of attention to the determinants of knowledge flow contracts with the vast literature relating to the international mobility of the products, services, and factors of the production. For the most part, existing investigation of the globalization of the R&D activity have been confined to empirical and policy analysis of involving case study and supplier surveys. Certain of these studies highlight the role that distinguishing suppliers innovative. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Asian Business and Information Management, volume number 7, issue number 3, July-September 2016. The paper title is the implication of India's special characteristics for FDI spillovers. This paper is published by the IGI Global Publisher, United States of America. A number of recent studies examine technology transfer from foreign direct investment to India's domestic industrial enterprise. This study goes further by investigating the implications of institutions for the nature of technology spillovers during 2004 to 2013. The author examines three institutional features that comprise aspects of India's special characteristics. The different sources of FDI, where FDI is nearly evenly divided between mostly organizations for economic cooperation and development countries and Mauritius. India's heterogeneous ownership structure involving state and non-state owned enterprises, industrial promotion via tariffs or through tax holidays to foreign direct investment. The author found robust positive and significant spillovers as measured by the total factor productivity to domestic firms via backward linkage, the contacts between foreign buyers and the local suppliers. The results suggest that varied success with industrial promotion policies, final goods tariffs, as well as input tariffs are negatively associated with firm level productivity. However, the author found statistically significant evidence of stronger productivity spillovers associated with firms that received tax breaks, suggesting that tax holidays were more successful than tariffs as an instrument to promote productivity growth in India. Keywords are the foreign direct investments, India's special characteristics, productivity. Since opening its economy to the outside world in the late 91, India has observed an increasing amount of the FDI. It is now among the world's second largest host for the foreign investment and has constantly ranked number two as the largest developing country recipient of the FDI inflows in the recent years. Potential technology transfer is likely to have been an important rationale behind the India government's aggressive efforts over the past 2 decades to attract foreign investment to India. Indeed, the Indian government has intervened extensively to promote industrialization in India, relying on a range of policy instruments. These instruments include tariffs, tax subsidies, and promotion of foreign investors in the key sectors. One of the reasons behind this was to gain from access to new technology, products, and processes that multinational enterprises, which are the main purveyors of FDI, bring among with them. It is often argued that the multinational possess proprietary advantage in the form of the firm-specific, non-tangible aspects like technical know-how, marketing, and managerial skills. Access to cheap raw materials, well-developed export markets, which help them compete with domestic firms in the host country. Since these advantages have characteristics of a public good, next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Food and Beverage Manufacturing and Business Model, Volume 1, Issue 2, July-December 2016. The title of the paper is The Decision of Suppliers and Consumers of the Credence Good in the Quality Food Markets. Most food products can be classified as credence goods, and regulation exists to provide consumers with a substitute for the lacking information and trust. The paper presents an analysis of the decisions of suppliers and consumers about credence good in the three institutional scenarios, which reflect different levels of credibility of the regulation. The first scenario is a reference scenario in which the regulation is fully credible. In the second case, consider there is no regulation or of if there is, it is totally ineffective. In the third scenario, a regulation only partially credible provides consumers with an imperfect substitute for the information and trust they lack. The last section of the paper discusses the possible implication of the results reached in explaining the limited effectiveness of many regulations concerning food quality. The keywords are the asymmetric information, credence goods, product quality, regulations, trust. Most food markets are characterized by a market asymmetry in the information available to producers and consumers on the quality of the product. Producers know what they are selling, while consumers often don't know what they are buying. The analysis of market characterized by information asymmetry and uncertainty on product quality have given rise to a vast body of literature starting back in the 1970 with the pioneering work of the Eklof on one-shot purchase and those of Killian and Leffler, which deal with repeated purchase. In the case of such goods and experience goods relating to situation where the quality of good can be known to consumer prior to purchase, and those where consumers find out the quality of good only after consumption, respectively, there are endogenous incentives for producers to maintain quality standards. In fact, in the first case, a reduction in the standard leads to an immediate fall in the sales, while in the second, it leads to the growth of a bad reputation if purchase is repeated to a full future profit levels. Then there is a third, more complex case, that of trust and credence goods, which refers to situation where consumers cannot possibly know the characteristics of a product even after consumption. The use of the category of the trust to refer to these goods derives from the fact that consumers, being unable to judge the intrinsic characteristics of the product, make their choice on the basis of an act of faith in the producer. The existence of the market for a credence good is either made possible by the reputation of the selling firm. This paper is published in the IGI Global Publisher. DY is the 1014.8 $sign IJFPM 20160701004. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Risk and Contingency Management, Volume 5, Issue 4, October-December 2016. The paper title is The Scenario and Robust Optimization in Risk Management. Simulation optimization is providing solution to important practical problems previously beyond the research. This paper explores how new approaches are significantly expanding the power of simulation optimization for managing risk. Recent advances in simulation optimization technology are leading to new opportunity to solve problems more effectively. Specifically in application involving risk and uncertainty, simulation optimization surpasses the capability of other optimization methods, not only in the quality of the solution, but also in their interpretability and practicability. In this paper, the author demonstrates the advantage of using a simulation optimization approach to tackle risky decisions by showcasing the methodology on two popular applications from the areas of finance and business process design. The keywords are optimization, portfolio selection, risk management, simulation. Whenever uncertainty exists, there is a risk. Uncertainty is present when there is a possibility that the outcome of a particular event will deviate from what is expected. In some cases, we can use past experience and other information to try to estimate the probability of occurrence of different events. This allows us to estimate a probability of distribution for all possible events. Risk can be defined as the probability of occurrence of an event that would have a negative effect on a goal. On the other hand, the probability of occurrence of an event that would have a positive impact is considered an opportunity. Therefore, the portion of the probability distribution that presents potentially harmful or unwanted outcomes is the focus of the risk management. Risk management is the process that involves identifying, selecting, and implementing measures that can be applied to mitigate risk in a particular situation. The objective of the risk management in this construct is to find the set of the action, investment, policies, research configuration to reduce the level of risk to the acceptable level. What constitutes an acceptable level will depend on the situation, the decision maker's attitude towards risk, and the managerial marginal rewards expected from taking on additional risk. In order to help risk managers achieve this objective, many techniques have been developed, both qualitative and quantitative. Among quantitative techniques, optimization has a natural appeal because it is based on objective mathematical formulation that usually output an optimal solution, a set of the decision for mitigating risk. However, traditional optimization approach are prone to serious limitation. In section 2 of this paper, we briefly describe two prominent optimization techniques that are frequently used in risk management application for their ability to handle uncertainty in the data. We then discuss the advantage and disadvantage of these methods. This paper is published in the IGI Global Publishers, United States of the America. The next paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Applied Logistics, Volume 6, Issue 2, July-December 2016. The paper title is the Effect of Product Labeling Policy in Supply Chain Under Asymmetric Information. Measuring and analyzing product label policy in supply chain process is a largely unexplored topic. This paper analyzes the reasons why suppliers may pursue different product labeling policies in asymmetric information and how this affects buyer product utility in the context of the supply chain collaboration. In an asymmetric information environment where suppliers know the quality of the goods they are selling and buyers are not able to distinguish between them, the quality buyers select to protect by a label depends on the buyer's preferences for and production cost of the different quality. Suppliers with different distribution of taste and for different production function will thus decide to label differently. When they collaborate, product utility effects will be different on the buyer as a whole and on different types of the buyer within each buyer depending on whether buyers select to mutually recognize each other's labeling policy or to harmonize their policy. In particular, it will be the case that a buyer with weak preferences for high quality will oppose the introduction of an international harmonized label as it is better under a regime of mutual recognition. When suppliers only differ in their cost of the producing quality instead, none of the suppliers or buyers will lose from a move towards supply chain collaboration under an international harmonized level. The keywords are the symmetric information, mutual recognition, product level labeling, supply chain collaboration. The past 2 decades have seen a sharp increase in the use of outsourcing and global network of companies to deliver products to achieve the dual objective of differentiation and cost efficiency. Enterprises depend on the effectiveness of supply chain network to offer better and cheaper products, shorter response time, and higher service level. On the other hand, the global supply chains are posing challenges in ensuring the quality of products. Lately, a number of instances of product quality and product safety issues have been reported in industry and academic literature. Indicates that the global supply chain created great saving, but quality control suffered, resulting in the major product recalls. Further, he states that the operational saving disappeared as organizations rushed to offset their quality risk in the complex supply chain process. KUKOR conducted interviews with 2 industry leaders to examine the current direction of quality management and sustainable quality improvements in supply chain. These interviews indicate that the overall goal of reducing cost through the extended supply chain has proved to be less effective than expected. Further, the organization need to embrace the technological presently available not only to control cost but also to control quality in global supply chain. किसका फोन है? The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Applied Logistics, Volume 6, Issue 2, July-December 2016. The paper title is The Sub-Suppliers Decision Affect Supply Chain Performance. This paper is published in the IGI Global Publishers, United States of America. This paper studies how transfer pricing schemes interact with sub-suppliers' opportunistic behavior to affect supply chain performance. Effective supply chain management requires careful consideration of sub-suppliers, especially with respect to transfer pricing issues. Firms increasingly approach their sub-suppliers to drive compliance with firms' defined transfer pricing schemes. The paper models the supply chain incorporating asymmetric information among all the parties, suppliers' innovation activities, suppliers' corruption possibility, and transfer pricing scheme. It examines the impact of various transfer pricing schemes on supply chain efficiency. Especially, it conducts a performance comparison between the variable cost transfer pricing scheme and the full cost transfer pricing scheme. The paper finds that the sub-supplier choice of a transfer pricing scheme affects the supplier sourcing decision and the supply chain performance. And the variable cost transfer pricing scheme performs better in achieving supply chain coordination. Therefore, the present research seeks to explore and increase one's understanding of critical factors that contribute to overcome aforementioned complexity and unique challenge of managing sub-suppliers for transfer pricing schemes. The present research expands on the theory of transfer pricing schemes and sub-supplier management concept. The keywords are the niche bargaining solution, sub-suppliers, opportunity behavior, supply chain coordination, supply chain performance. This paper is published in the IGI Global Publisher, DI 104018, IGL 201607101. Recent research focus on inter-firm trades has introduced new challenges and opportunities for accounting researches. Issues in the supply chain management have attracted considerable interest in accounting field. These studies were devoted to scenarios where the authors are accounting information and examine their impact on supply chain performance. However, they do not analyze how the interaction between parties, proprietary information, and accounting system affects supply chain performance. Especially, these papers don't explore the role of a choice of a transfer pricing scheme can play in the inter-firm relationship, examining the distinguishing benefits of various transfer pricing schemes to supply chain coordination. In the recent period, transfer pricing projects gaining importance, being one of the agenda items related to modern accounting or cost management, and through increase of the national and international firms in an issue to be studied. Conveyance of the profit to be intended place through price differentiation in the purchase, sale transaction of goods or services of the business entity realized with the related party. The aim of the transfer pricing is to maximize the value of the cooperation. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is related to the solar cooling scheme. Economic evaluation of the solar cooling scheme. This is also one of the area of the major research to reduce the cost of the solar cooling schemes. This paper is published in the International Journal of Energy Optimization and Engineering, Volume 6, Issue 1, January-March 2017. This paper is published in the DOIE 104018, International Journal of OE 201701102 by the IGI Global Publisher, United States of America in 2017. This paper provides an economic evaluation and comparison of ejector, absorption, and vapor compression system driven either partly or fully by solar energy. Life cycle costing has been used to assess the relative economic ranks of the 8 solar cooling scheme. It has been found that the capital cost of the solar collector is the dominant capital cost item in the total inventory of the solar cooling plant, which has a strong influence on the system life cycle cost. Lower collector costs are therefore critical in establishing economically viable solar cooling systems. Primary energy analysis has been carried out and the running cost of the chillers were determined for the maximum range of thermal and electric solar function and a number of annual equivalent full load hours of operation. The results indicate that two low temperature flat collector assisted single effect absorption chillers compete favorably with a PV assisted centrifugal mechanical compression chiller across the maximum range of the thermal and electric solar fractions. Low temperature options for solar cooling have been shown to be more economical than their high temperature counterparts. At current collector prices, solar cooling systems are still not cost effective compared with the conventional centrifugal cooling system. However, it is shown that at collector cost of the $57 per meter square for thermal energy and $1.8 by WVP for electric energy, single effect solar absorption and PV centrifugal compression could become most effective within an annual EFLH of 54 hours. As such, the paper presents technical guidance on the procurement and operation of solar cooling plant. The novel energy and cost calculation methodology developed here can be applied globally to a wide range of the solar collectors, chillers, heat rejection, and ancillary subsystems. The keywords are the absorption, coefficient of the performance, life cycle cost, solar energy, solar fraction, vapor compression. Solar air conditioning with the lithium bromium H2O absorption chiller has been widely demonstrated in a variety of buildings. Laboratory scale solar ejector cooling system have also been demonstrated for air conditioning and simulated for refrigeration applications. However, the use of the PV to power vapor compression chiller is rarely found. This is primarily due to the high cost of the PV modules and their low conservation efficiency. This has led contemporary research to investigate the designs and economics of the solar thermal driven absorption cooling systems. However, continuing reducing PV prices have recently created an opportunity to utilize PV compression cooling system. To this end, solar electric refrigeration system have been developed for residential and light commercial air conditioning application, which use either PV power in standalone application. Since autonomous PV operation is not yet considered to be economical, this paper is published in the IGI Global Publishers, United States of America. Next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Productivity Management and Assessment Technology, Volume 5, Issue 1, January-June 2017. The paper title is Stochastic Frontier Analysis and Measurement of Productivity and Technical Efficiency of Indian Manufacturing Sector. This paper is published in the DOI 104018 IGPMAT 201701041. This paper is published by the IGI Global Publisher, United States of America. It is generally believed the structural reforms that usher in the competition and force companies to become more efficient were introduced later in India following the microeconomic crisis in 91. However, whether or not the post-91 growth is an outcome of more efficient use of resources or greater use of factor inputs, especially capital, remains an open empirical question. In this article, the author uses plant level data from 90 to 2015 to address this question. The results indicate that while there was an increase in the productivity of factors input during the 1990, most of the growth in value added is explained by growth in the use of the factor inputs. The author also finds that median technical efficiency declined in all but one of the industries between the 2 years, and change in technical efficiency explained a very small proportion in the change of gross value added. Keywords are the efficiency, growth decomposition, manufacturing sector, productivity. Recent research on the economic reforms in India has made a strong case in the favor of the argument that contrary to the popular perception, reforms in India were initiated in the 1980s. However, at the same time, this strand of the literature has argued that the policies that were implemented in India during the 1980s were pro-incumbent, whereas those that were introduced after the watershed year of the 1991 were pro-competition. Since the facilitation of the contestability of market, of which entry is an important ingredient, is considered to be an integral part of structural reform. This argument has important implication for the relative impact of reforms on the productivity and efficiency of the Indian industry during the 2 decades. Indian industries should have witnessed a support in productivity growth after 1991 on account of the pro-competition policies of the 90s should have stimulated it. There is evidence to suggest that both trade reforms and greater competition in the post-1991 period led to the productivity growth in the Indian manufacturing sector. In addition, the empirical evidence suggests that given inter-regional differences in infrastructure and governance, quality factors like location of production units played an important role in determining three-digit industry-level productivity growth. This evidence is consistent with the relationship between competition and productive growth observed in other emerging markets. Next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of Asian Business and Information Management, Volume 8, Issue 1, January-March 2017. The paper title is Panel Data Analysis for Exploring the New Determinants of Growth in Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises in India. This paper is published by the IGI Global Publisher, United States of America, DOI 10.4018 IJABIM 201701011. The purpose of this paper is to explore the main determinants of growth in small medium-sized enterprises in India. The empirical research has suggested that firm growth is determined not only the traditional characteristics of size and age, but also by other firm-specific factors such as indebtedness, internal financing, future growth opportunity, process and product innovation, and organizational changes. No empirical evidence has been provided so far on which of these determining factors are associated with the SME's growth and performance in India. Using a panel data set of the 560 fast-growing small and medium enterprises from India, the author finds evidence that firm size and age can be explained to a large extent the growth in the SMEs in India. Firm-specific characteristics such as short-term liquidity, future growth opportunity, internally generated funds, and factor productivity are found to be important factors in determining a firm's growth and performance. Economy-wide factors such as inflation and corporate income tax rate, but not gross domestic product, seem to have a significant impact on the SME's growth in India. The keywords are the growth, panel data analysis, small and medium enterprises. This paper explores the main determinants of growth in a small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, in India. The important role of SMEs for economic development of India has recently been attracting the attention of the academics and policymakers. For example, some recent studies emphasize the role of innovation as a factor of increased competitiveness of small and medium enterprises in India. For India, this paper explores the main determinants of growth in small medium-sized enterprises in India. The important role of SMEs for the economic development of India has recently been attracting the attention of the academics and policymakers. For example, some recent studies emphasize the role of innovation as a factor of increased competitiveness of small and medium enterprises in India. For India, SMEs represent a substantial part of their economy, are a major contributor to the growth of the GDP through the creation of the new businesses and jobs. This is why Indian government pay increased attention to small businesses and try to create an environment that will beneficial for their development. According to the Indian definition, small enterprises are those who have less than 50 employees and annual turnover less than 10,000 rupees crore. The small enterprises, those having less than 50 employees and annual turnover less than इकाही दाई सैकड़ा हजार 10,000 lakh 10 lakh crore 1 crore rupee. Medium enterprises are defined as one having less than 250 employees and a turnover less than 5 crore rupees. By annual turnover, the Indian Commission means income from sales and services without VAT and other indirect taxes. SMEs contribute significantly to the economic growth of both developed and developing countries. This paper is published in the IGI Global Publisher, United States of the America. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in International Journal of Asian Business and Information Management, Volume 8, Issue 1, January-March 2017. The title of the paper is The Profitability of Indian Firms in the Foreign Direct Investment. This paper is published by the IGI Global Publisher, United States of the America in 2017, DIU 104018 IJABIM 20101014. This paper identifies key factors that determine the profitability of Indian firms aboard by using panel data regression model on new large scale subsidiary level data over the 2009 to 2015 period. The results show that the determinants of the subsidiary profits differ across host region, suggesting that the economic and institutional factors specific to host regions influence significantly the profit performance of overseas subsidiary. While the size effect on the subsidiary profitability is present in all the regions, other effects such as experience, local supplier networks, local sales, and macroeconomic conditions affect the performance of subsidiary in a different manner by region. The keywords are the foreign direct investment, multinational enterprises, overseas subsidiary profitability. While the traditional literature that examines the performance of the multinational enterprises has focused on resources and capability possessed by the patent firm, the more recent literature emphasizes the importance of resources and capability developed at subsidiaries. When a MNE is composed of a number of subsidiaries and operates under a network of subsidiaries with different characteristics, individual subsidiaries are likely to contribute to the MNE's overall performance through the development of new sets of the capability. The process through which a subsidiary develops new capability and accumulates resources is likely to be facilitated by the establishment of the RD units in the subsidiary, which in turn determined by the subsidiary characteristics such as size and organizational experience. Parallel to this line of literature, an economic model developed by shows formally that the location of M&E's R&D and production activities are determined by the confluence of factors required to perform in these activity and location specific factors. What their model suggests is that the M&E shifts its R&D and or production units from the home country to host country, and the pattern depends on such economic factors as country size, trade and investment cost, scale economies, and a factor contingent of specific activity, among others. These two strands of literature clearly indicate that the MNE's performance is influenced by its subsidiary capability and their geography locations. If individual subsidiaries contribute to the performance of the enterprise as a whole, an important question that follows is that determines the performance of the individual subsidiary. While we believe this question is relevant empirically, thus for no study has addressed this issue using systematic data. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in Advances in Industrial Engineering and Management, Volume 2, Number 1, 2013, 1634, by the American Scientific Publisher, 2010. An innovative supplier and imitative buyer in the case of the product life cycle. This paper attempts to examine the product cycle in supply chain collaboration. In a competitive market environment, supply chains members seek to reduce cost by using strategic collaboration. This study delivers a model for a cooperative supply chain in which the supplier is innovator and the buyer is the product imitator. The innovation of suppliers can contribute to the long-term competitiveness for the supply chain. For many supply chains, product innovation is a major factor in the product cycle, and it should be considered in the development of a strategy for a supplier. In this paper, we evaluate the effectiveness of the supplier product innovation as a strategic tool to enhance the competitiveness and viability of supply chain. This paper examines the effect of the labor expansion, investment in R&D to the supplier innovation rates, buyer imitation rate, and the length of the product cycle. This study delivers an inventory replacement model for a supply chain. A profit sharing policy is developed to coordinate the supply chain for the product upgrading and increase the profits of the buyer and supplier both. This study maximizes the total profit of the supplier by search algorithm. In the model, both labor expansion and investment in R&D have the positive relationship, both innovation and imitation rates, and the shortens the product life cycle. Supply chain collaboration, product life cycle, supplier product innovation, buyer intimation, profit sharing policy. In a supply chain, the supplier and the buyer are two individual entities with different objective and self-interest. Due to rising cost, globalization trend, shrinking resources, shortened product life cycle, and quicker responsive time, increasing attention has been placed on the cooperation of the whole supply chain system. An effective supply chain network requires a cooperative relationship between the supplier and the buyer. Based on the mutual trust, the cooperation includes the sharing of information, resources, and profits. The result of the close cooperation is a mutual beneficial environment, which will increase the joint profit as well as enable a quicker response to customer demand. One of the most common strategy for a cooperative system is to set up an optimal replacement and mutual benefit policy acceptable to both the supplier and the buyer. The development of new products and improvement of the existing products are considered to be critical to the survival of a supply chain facing tough competition. Due to an increase in the competition and rapid advancement of technology, innovation and new product development are becoming the essential strategy for the management of the suppliers to survive in the world. Peterson et al. 2003. Product innovation is an effective tool that a supplier can utilize to maintain its competitive position in the market. The position of the supplier in the market can be influenced by the frequency of releasing new or improved products. As a result of increased buyer communication in many markets, buyers are flooded with many product choices, resulting in shorter product life cycle and rapid changes in buyer preferences. Product dynamics refer to the continuous changes in the product, which is characterized by speed and magnitude of technical change in the product. To cope up with the competition and dynamic change in the market demand, many suppliers are adopting open innovation, which involves collaboration with the external entities like customers, suppliers, university, research organization, and competitors. Many suppliers are switching towards open innovation models from traditional closed innovation model to increase their level of innovation and retain competitive position in the supply chain. Open innovation involves interaction of the supplier with several external entities such as customer and suppliers to generate new ideas to improve existing products and develop new products. In recent years, the literature on product cycle has made some important issues of discussion. Vernon's 1966 stated about how technology transfer and its effect on product cycle. However, many models that attempt to explain this phenomena, given gross Hartmann's penetrating one, we supposed to be the representing among the talk little about them. The next research paper of Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the IOP Publishers, Adoption of Lean Manufacturing in Indian Automotive Industry and Analysis. Lean manufacturing has been expanded to include the whole spectrum of activity in the industry, particularly in the automotive sector. The purpose of this study is to investigate the adoption of lean manufacturing in the automobile industry in India. A questionnaire survey was used to explore the principal areas of lean manufacturing. In addition, the survey also examined various issues associated with lean manufacturing, such as its understanding among the respond company, its benefit and obstacles, and the tools and techniques used. The survey results showed that many companies in the automotive industry are committed to implement lean manufacturing. In essence, this is perhaps the first study that investigates the actual implementation of lean manufacturing in the Indian automotive industry. The paper describes some learning from the literature and actual practices in the Indian automotive industry. Attempts are made to present the gap between the principle and practices. Some significant suggestions are put forth to enrich the knowledge base of the professional to make the implementation process more pragmatic and robust in the long run and for the furtherance of the empirical research by academia. The keywords are lean manufacturing, Indian automotive industry. Nowadays, the expansion of industrial muscles, fundamental technology is more and more important due to the dynamic war in globalized economy. Industries have to continue and initially advance their essential technology in the specialized area to gain the sustainable competitive advantage. Otherwise, they cannot continue to exist in the marketplace. With global competition, it is important for manufacturer to remain competitive in the respective market and to understand the principles of a lean manufacturing and the steps to implement them to ensure that they are on the leading edge of the manufacturing. Indian manufacturers in the automotive industry have always faced heightened challenges such as a rising customer expectation, fluctuating demand, and competition in market. There is no doubt that these manufacturers are always embracing change and improvements in their key activities or process to cope with challenges. One way to stay competitive in this globalized market is to this one. Next paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the A New Decision Framework for Indian Transport Planning. The theme of the paper is to develop transport planning objective and instrument in the Indian context. The idea of the transport sector and economic development is the interrelationship between surface transport system and economic development. The interrelationship includes planning and financing transport infrastructure, the interrelationship between transport system and land use, and the contribution which innovation can take to the transport sector. The methods investigate and evaluate all relevant impacts of alternative project plans policy options by introducing some key policy criteria. It provides a cohesive framework which can contribute to the development of good practice in the evaluation of spatial economic and environmental economic transport policy instrument. The paper presents an evaluation framework for three scenarios based on widely used multi-criteria methods, linearity, utility model, analytical network process, multi-attribute utility theory, and a mathematical decision framework for the evaluation of the transport planning in India. The application of the methodological framework has led to the identification of the best possible ranking of the proposed alternative. The decision framework is applied to three scenarios in the Indian context with transport-related policies to test its robustness and assist in the formation of the policy. Keywords are the transport planning policies, linear additive utility model, analytical network process, multi-attribute utility theory. Next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published by the Science Direct by the Elsevier publisher. The journal is the Computers and Industrial Engineering. A fuzzy goal programming approach for vendor selection in a problem in a supply chain. A fuzzy goal programming approach is applied in this paper for solving the vendor selection problem with simple objective in which some parameters are fuzzy in nature. A vendor selection problem has been formulated as a fuzzy mixed integer goal programming vendor selection problem that includes three primary objectives: minimizing the net costs, minimizing the net reduction, and minimizing the net delivery, subject to the basic constants regarding the buyer's demand, vendor's capacity, vendor's quota flexibility, purchasing value, and budget allocation to an individual vendor. An illustration with a data set from a realistic situation is added to demonstrate the effectiveness of the proposed model. The proposed approach has the capability of the realistic situation in a fuzzy environment and provides a better decision tool for the vendor selection decision in a supply chain. Keywords are the vendor selection problem, supply chain, multi-criteria decision, fuzzy sets. The objective of managing the supply chain is to synchronize the requirement of the customers with raw materials from supplier in order to strike a balance. What are the often seen as a conflicting goals: high customer service, low inventory, low unit cost. The vendor selection problem deals with issue related to the selection of the right vendor and the right quota allocation. In designing a supply chain, decision maker must consider decision regarding the selection of the right vendor. The next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the International Journal of the Integrated Supply Management, Volume 2, number 1/2, 2006. The paper title is An Integrated Approach Using Utility Theory and Chance Custom Programming for Supplier Quota Allocation. In this paper, a solution procedure based on utility theory and chance constraint programming is developed to solve a supplier quota allocation problem. The objective of the problem to incorporate maximization of sales revenue, quality of on-time delivery, some realistic constant such as a buyer demand, budget allocation to individual vendors are also modeled in this problem. The proposed approach allows us to handle random aspects of the input information. The effect of different levels of uncertainty is also analyzed to understand how quota allocation to supplier changes and how some of the suppliers lose their quota in an uncertain environment. A case illustration of the real automobile manufacturer is provided, which shows the effectiveness and application of the model to suppliers quota allocation problem in the supply chain. Keywords are the supply chain management, suppliers quota allocation, utility theory, chance constant. This paper is reference to this paper should be made as follows. That is the Kumar M, Vrat P, Shankar R. An integrated approach using utility theory and chance constant programming for supplier quota allocation, International Journal, Integrated Supply Chain Management, Volume 2, number 12, PP 132, 148, published by the Inder Science publisher. Next research paper of the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar is published in the Science Direct by the Elsevier publisher. The paper title is International Journal of Production Economics, 101, 2006, 2070 to 2015. The paper title is The Fuzzy Programming Approach for Vendor Selection Problem in a Supply Chain. Vendor selection problem has been treated in this paper as a fuzzy multi-objective integer programming vendor selection problem formulation that includes the three important goals: cost minimization, maximization on timely delivery with realistic constant, such as meeting the buyer's vendor capacity, vendor's quota flexibility, etc. In the proposed model, various input parameters have been vague with a linear membership function of fuzzy type. It is tested on a dataset adapted from a case. The approach provides a decision tool that facilitates the vendor selection and their quota allocation under the degree of information vagueness in the decision parameters of a supply chain modeling. Keywords are the vendor selection problem, multi-criteria decision, fuzzy programming, supply chain. Vendor selection problem is an area of tremendous importance in the effective management of the supply chain. This is due to the compelling need to evolve strategic alliances with the vendors. The material equipment supplied from the vendors play an important role in the management of the supply chain. Issues in the supply chain are influenced by the proper selection of the vendor. In the logistic decision, the location of vendor has a great influence on the supply chain decision in terms of the transportation, distribution planning. Hence, it is important to select the potential vendor so that the different objectives supply chain are achieved. Similarly, reliable vendors may lead to less number of vendors in a supply chain. The corresponding authors telephone number +91991126596421 26591191. The fax number +99112686 and email address kumar1968 @rediffmail.com. M Kumar and director IT IITR ERNet in Pivrat. Ravi1 DMS ITD ERNet in, है ना? These are the series of the research paper published by the Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar. The next research paper of the series will be explored in the next series. Thank you with best wishes. Thank you with best wishes.